Ethics and values. Typically, a patient's Bill of Rights will guarantee clients' information, fair treatment, and autonomy over medical decisions, among other rights. They are developed in an effort to help improve patient care, and it's based on the premise that healthcare provision is a partnership between the client and the healthcare team. It's also based on the premise that the patient has a responsibility to fulfill in the provision of healthcare. In other words, it's not all on the healthcare provider's shoulders. The patient has a responsibility too. On the flip side, many states are increasing penalties for violence against healthcare workers, such as assault, aggravated, or they're increasing a charge of assault to aggravated assault, for example, and they are attaching stiffer penalties and consequences. So not only do the patients have a Bill of Rights, but now the healthcare providers have increased protection from a legal standpoint. There's several definitions that you really need to be familiar with and have an understanding of the meaning. Ethics is the study of conduct and character. They're standards that individuals, professions, and societies will strive to meet. Now, not everyone has or follows the same code of ethics. Nursing has a code of ethics, and in box 22.1 you can find the American Nurses Association ethics. And the National Association of Practical Nurse Education and Service, NAPNES, also has the Code of Ethics, and I have provided this for you. Autonomy is the freedom from external control. Clients have a right to make their own decisions without pressure from the healthcare team. Beneficence is taking positive actions to help others. And this is what nursing is all about. We are positively acting to improve a client's status. Nurses should put the best interests of others before themselves. Non-maleficence is the avoidance of harm and hurt. In healthcare, sometimes it means causing the least amount of harm. For example, you have a client that's dehydrated and they require intravenous fluids. As nurses, when we start the IV, we are causing harm. We're causing pain and we're interrupting the skin integrity, causing a potential site for bacteria to enter the body. So we are causing harm, but it is the least amount of harm. But to improve the overall health status in this situation, the IV is necessary. Justice is fairness. Fidelity is the agreement to keep promises. It also refers to the non-abandonment of clients. Code of Ethics is a set of guiding principles that all members of a profession accept. They serve as guidelines to assist professional groups. Advocacy is support of a particular cause. Nurses are client advocates. We make certain that client rights, health, and safety are protected. Responsibility is a willingness to accept one's professional obligations and follow through on promises. You and you alone are responsible for your actions. Now, another person's actions may have consequences or may reflect the action that you take, but another person's actions are not responsible for your actions. So don't play the blame game. Accept responsibility. Many years ago, I was working as the emergency room nurse, and one of the physicians called in to check on a patient that was in the emergency room. At the same time, he began to refer to a patient that had been admitted to the medical surgical floor. He wanted to give orders for that patient also and wanted to know if I would pass that order on or if he needed to contact the unit directly. And being the nice person that I am, I wanted to save him the work of having to talk to yet one more person and save him some time. So I offered to just pass the order on. But things got busy and I didn't follow through. This patient was taken to surgery and it was discovered that the order had not been completed. I felt horrible, and I actually wrote the physician a letter and told him that I wasn't trying to excuse my behavior, that it was my fault that the order was not followed through on because I failed to transcribe the order as he requested. I did tell him that I got busy and I simply forgot. But I owned up to my mistake. It was not an easy thing to do, to admit that I failed at something, but at the same time, it also helped develop a long-lasting, and in fact to this day, mutual respect with that physician and I. And that physician actually took the time to write a response stating that he knew that there had been something that went on that caused that order to not be transcribed the way I had said it would be. And then he complimented me on owning up to my mistake, saying that not many people do that. I have used that as a guide in my practice since then and in my personal life. If I make a mistake and I'm aware of that mistake, I will definitely own up to it, no matter how embarrassed I may be or how bad it may make me look. But again, it does improve your relationship with coworkers and with other members of the healthcare team when you don't play the blame game. Accountability is the ability to answer for one's own actions. Again, you and you alone are responsible for your actions, and you must accept those consequences if you don't perform or act responsibly or appropriately. I was willing to accept the consequences. I was willing to accept this physician's anger because I screwed up. But instead of anger, I garnered his respect. Confidentiality is the right and privilege of clients for the protection of privacy. Values is a personal belief about the worth of a given idea, attitude, custom, or object that sets standards that influence behavior. Your ability to hold on to your own values but yet respect the values of your client can be really difficult, but it is necessary. Again, an example. I have a very strong faith. I attend church regularly. I'm very active in my church. So when I have to deal with someone whose values don't reflect my own, it can be very difficult. I am also an obstetric nurse, and I had a client who came in that was a lesbian. She was she publicly proclaimed that she was a lesbian. And I could not let my values, it didn't mean that I didn't care for her or didn't like her or didn't want to be her nurse. It just meant that I did not approve of her lifestyle. I could not let my values reflect the care that I provided her. You have a duty to provide care despite differing values. Values are formed throughout life's experiences and the culture that we're raised in. When we resolve ethical dilemmas, we have to begin to distinguish between value, facts, and opinion. Deontology is the traditional ethical theory that examines a situation to determine essential right and wrong. Utilitarianism is the value that is determined by its usefulness. We have consequentialism underneath that, which is the emphasis being on the outcome of the action. The difference between deontology and utilitarianism is the focus on the outcomes. We also have feminist ethics. These look at the relationships, especially where power is unequal or a point of view is ignored or invisible. We have ethics of care that looks at relationships and beyond relationships to ethical concerns within individual caring. Above all, these different philosophies will hold respect for others. When we try and resolve an ethical dilemma, there are several steps that we need to follow. Clients are often more open with nurses than they are other healthcare team members because the nurses are involved in intimate details of the client's life, and they're often privileged or privy to information that other healthcare team members aren't aware of. An ethical dilemma may call for a nurse to be a patient advocate. Following the nursing process is required to resolve ethical dilemmas. It's necessary to gather all pertinent information, and it proceeds with planning, implementation, and evaluation. So the first step is to determine if the situation is actually an ethical dilemma. Gather the relevant information and determine your own values regarding the issues. Verbalize the problem. Consider the potential courses of action. Negotiate a plan of action and the outcomes, and evaluate the outcomes over a period of time. Many healthcare facilities do have ethics committees to help resolve ethical dilemmas, and they also deal with ethical issues prior to there being a conflict. On these committees, you will find multidisciplinary members. You'll find nurses, you'll find physicians, you'll find respiratory therapists and pastoral care, etc. So it's multidisciplinary. There's a variety of ethical issues involved in healthcare. We look at the quality of life, which is the client's ability to contribute to society in a meaningful way. Genetic screening is going to alert clients to conditions that may develop in one's future. Care at the end of life is another ethical issue, where decisions regarding treatment are influenced by quantity and quality of life remaining with and without treatment. Comfort care is part of the care of end of life, and it's care that's provided to increase comfort to a terminal client instead of providing treatment to lengthen life. And access to care. There are an increasingly large number of people who are uninsured, which Obama is attempting to change with his Affordable Care Act. But we have to realize that not everyone has the same opportunities to access care that others do.